Welcome to the Open Fire podcast. Open Fire is an honest and informed dialogue on fire safety issues. We direct discussions with some of the fire industry's most prominent and recognised leaders. Your presenters are myself, Dave Calvert, Operations Director at Frankham RMS, and with me I have Master of all things, CEO of CLM, Tom Gilbert.
I mean, it's better than last time, that intro, Dave. How are you?
I'm very well. Yeah.
We said that we weren't even going to say that I was a fire expert, and now I'm the expert of all things. So
I cannot find an introduction for you that you're happy with, can I?
Absolutely. And I think the good thing about this is we always talk at the beginning of the episode about what chinwag are we going to have? What nonsensical filler will we have before we go into the episode?
Just to break the ice.
Just to break the ice. And you told me not to mention your waistcoat. So I won't.
Correct. I've just come from the Crucible.
You've just come from the Crucible. Yeah, you look like a magician. We've
Yeah,
done those gags, but I would urge anyone listening to this on a podcast app to go and look at your outfit today on YouTube. I think that's valid for sure. Okay. The only reason I did that was to get people off the podcast and onto YouTube to increase
That's
our
fair. It's a good
numbers.
marketing ploy. Just to be clear, this is the first time I've worn this waistcoat. I
Yes.
was really excited about it this morning.
Yes.
Because I've just managed to squeeze into it for the first time.
But this
in a
is the
long
point,
time.
and that's what.
And you've just.
Yes, and that's why we've gone down this route. Because,
Why are you taking the jam out of my donut at such an early stage?
Of course, but you are on a little bit of a weight loss goal. You're a stone down already.
I am.
Wedding is in the bin for September of next year.
I've got just under a year.
A year to go.
And I've got to lose 4 stone, one of which I've lost.
Oh, so you've only got 3 to go.
3 to go.
I reckon you could do 4.
When you say
extra, though.
only, that's like at least one leg and possibly part of an arm.
Amputation is
Yes.
essentially.
Yeah.
If
I don't know how much my leg weighs.
Well, anyway, less of all that nonsense, Dave. We've got someone on the sofa today, haven't we?
We have. So, welcome our guest, Gavin Skelly, founder of FireAware. Thank you for agreeing to join us on the episode.
Thanks, guys.
Gavin, we know very little about you. We've not met before. I don't believe you've met Tom before. Perhaps it would be a good idea to introduce yourself.
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you very much for giving me the time to speak. Because you're right, FireAware is a relatively new organisation. The idea of the organisation came to me in 2019 after Judith Hackitt had said that the culture of the industry. The culture of the construction industry, importantly, needed to change following Grenfell from 2017. And I firmly believe that because I'm a contractor. I haven't been in fire specifically. I'm not trained in fire. I've been contracting for 30 years and I've worked on many sides of the contracting line. I've worked for large tier ones, small developers. I've worked for clients. I've worked for consultants. So what they gave me is a really good grounding in how the industry works. And importantly, how behaviours work within the industry. And that's what FireAware is about. All at heart, it's about the behaviours of people that work within the fire sector. So we set out in 2019, in answer to the call of Dame Judith, to create an organisation that looked at how the behaviours of those taking part in the fire sector could be improved. Because we all know, following the evidence that's come from Grenfell, and certainly other issues that have been linked to that, sort of like the cladding crisis and things that have happened since, there's something going wrong with the way that the industry works, and it's not necessarily, in my view, to do with the science and regulation. Science and regulation will always work if it's used in the way that it's been designed to be delivered. So it's the behaviours of those using that science and those regulations that's important. So 2019, there's me sitting on my kitchen table in Milton Keynes, extremely frustrated with the state of the industry that I devoted a lot of my life to. And I wanted to do something about it. I didn't want this to be another, let's wait for the tier ones to do something and we all follow. I didn't want this to be something that was driven down from the top, because I firmly believe that the way to change the culture of the industry is to bring it up from the grassroots and to grow it from the bottom. And that's what I set out to do. How do you do that? Again, one guy sitting in Milton Keynes facing a granite wall of status quo that's been in place for many, many years. But the idea I had was to identify companies that had the right moral attitude, the right responsible nature in the delivery of their services. Because having worked in the construction industry for this amount of time, I'd worked with both. I'd worked with companies that were absolutely brilliant in respect to how they went about their business, the information they would provide you, how they tendered work, what they would and wouldn't tender, because they knew if they received a tender that was underfunded or incorrectly designed, they wouldn't tender for it because they knew they couldn't give the client what they would want to provide the ultimate safety for their end user. Equally, I'd used other companies that absolutely would. And to tell the difference is really difficult because on paper they all look the same. They've all got the same technical accreditations. It's something about the way those companies behave, their corporate approach, that was different. So I thought, well, hang on a second. We need something to identify those companies with the right behaviours. We need something that can easily be understood, that when linked to a corporate image, told clients, told suppliers, told the public that this company is behaving in a way that is commensurate with the level of a responsibility to keep them safe. It's a really, really important thing.
So what is that? How do you do that?
So the process, it's a membership organisation. So first of all, the identity, obviously, as any organisation will have, is a logo. You are given a logo to use to identify.
So how do you? What is your process for identifying if a company has a decent set of ethics and morals? What hoops do they have to go through?
So it's if we jump to the compliance, there's two stages of compliance. The first one is your initial assessment. So any company that wants to join FireAware, before they're allowed to, they have to go through an assessment of the company, what they do, and how they are accredited and how they are insured to do that. So what accreditations have you got to do the services that you are professing to give? What insurance levels have you got? We asked to see insurance schedules, not just certain insurance certificates, because they don't really tell the story. And we have these, we assess them to say, okay, well, yeah, at this level, at this stage, you are that company that you say you are. You are qualified to do the job you're doing. You've got the experience to do it. You've also got the insurance to do it. Okay, fine. So you can become a member of FireAware. You're at the start position of it. But the main aspect of the membership compliance is compliance with the obligations that we set out via our charters. So just take a step back from the compliance for a minute, because I think it's important to explain this. In the development of FireAware, what we realised was, and thinking again about what Dame Judith said about improving the culture of the construction industry, we quickly realised that it's actually not just the construction industry that needs to be involved. Mm-hmm. It's not just improving the people that are effectively building buildings up or fixing stuff to walls. There is a much wider level of responsibility outside of that sector. So FireAware doesn't just apply to constructors. FireAware applies to any business with a duty of care to an end user. So that could be a client, a developer, that could be a hotel chain, that could be the building that we're sitting in now, because somewhere, someone has got a responsibility. Someone somewhere has got a requirement to make sure that in the event something happened in this building, or the building that your children go to school in, or the hospital that you're going to go and visit your friend in at the weekend, it's the same thing. Someone has a responsibility to behave in the right way, to make sure that all of the information, whatever it is they do, because it could be anything given the bandwidth of it, is done in a way that is commensurate with the best level of safety to give the end user of that particular environment. So it's not just about constructors, it's about the whole ecosystem of the fire safety world, which includes many, many businesses outside of that, outside of that construction specialism. So, and the reason I'm saying that at this point, because it ties back into compliance. So the FireAware website, in its charter page, has charters for many, many, many different disciplines. It's not just about subcontractors and main contractors. It's about commercial trades. It's about hoteliers. It's about housing associations. It's about landlords. It's about self-letters. We have charters for each of these disciplines, which means that any of those disciplines can join our organisation, enjoy the USP of identifying themselves as a responsible business, but they only do that if they prove to us that they are answering the conditions of charter that we set them.
So the conditions of charter, because I've been on the website and there are lots of different charters
Correct.
for a lot of different businesses. Do the charters vary dramatically between individual?
They have to between disciplines. We have to do it in disciplines because we can't do it individually for each business because that would be too big.
Yeah.
You couldn't do that. It would be too difficult. So there are broad brush charter conditions for each discipline. But a main contractor, for example, will have a completely different set of conditions,
of course,
to a landlord.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it all means the same thing.
Yeah.
If that main contractor delivers to those conditions and this landlord delivers to their conditions, ultimately it's the same thing.
Yeah.
They are proving their behavioural performance in respect to delivering fire safety. Therefore, they can, and this is really important, therefore they can be identified but also unified, because that's what's important. What we're giving now is a unified position that the public can understand and recognise as a company with the right behavioural approach. The public know what bad looks like now. You know, if they didn't before, they certainly do now after Grenfell. And they understand, you know, given everything that was in the news and is going to be as well going forward with the stage 2 inquiry and the criminal prosecutions, lots of information will be out there about poor performance. What we need to do is we need to give the public a recognisable, simply recognisable identity that they see in many different settings that they go to. So you might see it when you walk into the foyer of this building. If the company that owns this building are members and are abiding by the charter, you'll see the logo. But you'll also see it on a contractor's van. You'll also see it behind the foyer of your kid's school when you drop them off, because it means the same to all them companies. And in your mind, in the public's mind, they then start to understand what it means. Now, and here's the real key to this. The public understanding what it means it becomes a condition of sale. Because if you've got a product, or let's just say, I often use this example, a property developer, block of flats, 2 different, you know, in the same area, and you've got a sales agent who love good news stories, you know, any good news to sell a flat. If you've got outside your show house of this particular development, you've got your ABC or your NHBC flags fluttering away to say, yeah, I've built it to a set of standards. I've built it to a set of standards that means it's, you know, it's a well-built property. What does the fire aware flag mean? You tell that story to someone who is looking to buy a flat in a block of flats. This developer signed up to an organisation, his supply chain have signed up to an organisation that is monitoring their performance, their behavioural performance in the way that they deliver their services. That's a USP that likely, if I'm looking for a flat and I'm comparing it to one down the road, hang on a second, well, why haven't they got it? Well, why haven't they got it? Well, I don't like the sound of that. It's market force, and that's where FireAware actually is starting. We believe FireAware can affect the culture of the fire safety of the fire industry, because we're using market force, competitive force, to drive up standards. Because developer down the road suddenly realises he's losing out to the guy up the road. Well, hang on a second, why am I losing all that business? Because they're in, you're not. Well, what do we need to be in it? Well, you need to do this. Okay, we better do that then. Their standards come up.
Yeah.
The hotelier you're flicking through bookings.com, or you're flicking through a brochure. Do you see the process I'm trying to explain? It's about corporate. It's about corporate improvement using market force.
Yeah. Well, so when you introduced your organisation into the industry, was that because you saw a gap that other similar accreditation organisations, like, for example, the IFE or the IFSM or
ASFP?
ASFP?
Yeah.
We've spoken a lot to
is there something that they were missing?
Yep.
So what were they missing? Which piece were they missing? And could they have added that to their...
I don't believe so.
Their offering.
I don't believe so.
So what was the bit that they were missing?
They're missing the bandwidth. They're all focused on sectors, on silos, on disciplines, and they can't jump out of that discipline. So the ASFP, for example, Association of Passive Fire, anything to do with passive fire, brilliant, but it's more than just passive fire. Mm-hmm. It's more than just passive fire. It's about everybody around the outside of what that passive fire is doing, who equally have something to do with the ultimate development of the environment, that have to be responsible too.
So FireAware lobs a net over everything.
It's a unifying identity that lobs a net over all of the participants and gives the public a solid singular identity that gives them that. I'll give you an example of what this is. And this has been said many times and actually been offered to me, not me. This isn't my explanation, it's somebody else's. It's a bit like when you walk into a restaurant and you see the food and hygiene standards. I know nothing about cooking. Honestly, I burn toast, 100%. But if I walk into a restaurant and I see the food and hygiene standards and it's got a good rating, subconsciously I know there's something going on in this business. There's something going on behind the scenes that makes what's going to come out through those doors okay for me to eat. I don't know what it is, but subconsciously I believe it. Why the hell don't we do the same with fire safety? Because that business has obligations to keep you safe, not only from food, but from fire too. Yeah. So you want to know that they're doing that. Not being dismissive of any other organisation. Everyone's doing their thing, and everyone's doing their thing to make their particular sector right. But that's the thing; it's about particular sectors. FireAware transcends the sectors horizontally and vertically, because it's not only about the supply chain at this level. It's about the client that uses that supply chain. Because by using that supply chain, proving their own responsibility,
Yeah.
the USP transmits up and transmits up and transmits up until it hits the public conscience, because ultimately at some point someone's buying something,
Yeah.
and that's when they see the benefit.
So do organisations that sign up who are a developer, for example, do they commit to using fire-aware supply chain?
It is a charter condition, but we're not stupid enough to think that people are going to be able to change their businesses overnight.
Yeah.
So we look for progressive improvement, and this goes back to the second part of charter compliance. So we have developed a really quite good website, functional website, where any member, excuse me, can go into a portal, and each condition of membership is set out. But this time, as opposed to being on their certificate, which is just a document, this is a portal where they can show us how they are using each condition of charter within their business, and they can upload documents, and they can upload anything they want to prove to us that they're doing it. And that's one of the things. This year, This year we used 6 fireware members. This year we used 4 fireware members. Okay. Brilliant. Next year, I want to see improvement on that. Yeah. So next year I want to see you use 8 fireware members, and it keeps on expanding because it's a charter condition. Yeah. And it makes the rest of the industry all of a sudden realise if we're not on this funnel, then it's going to be difficult for us to trade, because this is, again, why it's massively different from any of the other organisations. We're looking at the clients. The clients have a responsibility to prove their own responsible nature. We are now giving them a way to actually demonstrate that, because we can say, right, okay, this organisation at the client level, we've asked them to do X, Y, Z. They've done X, Y, Z. One of those things is they're using fireware members. The fireware members they're using X, Y, Z. They've answered their charter commitments, so we know, in our opinion, because ultimately it's our opinion.
So isn't there a possibility that companies or organisations that sign up to FireAware, who sign up to your charter based on the moral code that you're saying that should be the standard, or expected of these companies, isn't it possible it could mislead the buyer or the public into thinking that organisation is competent when actually what you're looking at is their ethical approach? And given all the focus on competency at the moment, how do you see?
But remember, any member of ours.
How do you see the relationship between the two?
Any member of ours has gone through a compliance assessment at the start of the process. As I said, if you're professing to do,
but that's comparing an accreditation they have from another organisation.
Yeah. So we do link into other organisations where we prefer to say, okay, if you come into us and you're NVQ level 4 qualified as a fire risk assessor, we're perfectly happy that you're a fire risk assessor. That's fine. So we do use industry standards as a method of measuring the competency of the company coming in. But then if we think that can be improved, we ask them to go further in the year. So as well as as I said before, as well as the charter conditions, we've also got a secondary line of compliance inquiry where we're looking for that progressive stepping forward, that progressive movement forward towards what may be considered to be a better accreditation. Maybe go for UCAS, something where you are moving your company forward.
So to take that example that you bring up, so that there'll be a lot of fire risk assessment companies listed, fire consultancies, and they both SP 205 accredited. Yep. They have their assessors on perhaps the TFRAR register, so they're individually their assessors are registered. As a company, they're accredited. They've got various qualifications. They can demonstrate the CVs of their staff. So from an accreditation point of view, they're very solid, they're experienced, and they're working in a sector they're comfortable in. They join FireAware. What are the additional expectations that you would expect of them in order to become accredited or to take it to this, what you're calling the next level?
I mean, it varies depending on the type of business, but our charters, because we've now got if you like, a community, we are taking advice from our community about how our charters are written. So we're taking advice from the industry about where the gaps are.
Sure, I was just using that example that you said about a fire risk assessment company as.
So
there's another one you'd prefer to use an example. I was just trying to picture it so that we can understand the process of
there could be many. But let's just say, I don't know, fire door inspector, for example. Okay. If you come to us and you've got a 4-hour course that you've done online for fire door inspection, we're going to be looking for you to continue to move forward with more and more and more higher level qualifications to continue to do what you're doing.
So it's like
and we might say to
improvement.
you, yeah, exactly. But we might say to you, look, you're not ready yet to come to FireWare.
Is that not talking more about improving their competency though?
Yeah, but it's so the you don't have to. Point I'm making is you don't have to legally do that to move forward. You can, because there is no legal definition. You can go out there and say I am a fire door inspector, but you can't say you're a FireWare fire and door inspector because you're not yet at that level where we would say, okay, we can let you in. But what we always say is never a no, because if we say to people no, they're just going to go out there in the industry and keep on doing what they're doing. We can't stop that. We'd rather know who you are and be able to monitor where you are, to be able to say, right, okay, I know this business, they're doing this, that, and the other. And we can see how they're improving to the point that we will say, okay, right now you are ready. You know, now that you're ready, you know, it's not a go away. It's a stay with us, but you're not going to be branded and put into the community until you've hit a certain point.
So if I took my business and said, right, I'm going to go through the process of joining. Mm-hmm. Let's say I meet all the competency requirements as a business. What do I need to do as a business now that's different that would make me fulfil the charter requirements?
Yeah. So there, again, I can't remember specifically exactly the charter conditions, but there will be a set of behavioural obligations. This is more about behaving than it is about competencies. You know, you've proven your competency. We want to know how you're behaving, and it might be around education of your staff. It might be around use of tendering information. How do you tender? How do you transmit to the end user the important information that you need to tell them about the services that you've provided? Show us how you're doing it. Because every question will be answered differently by every company. Yeah, because there's no specifics on this. There's no law here that we're trying to achieve. It is basically us saying, look, show us how you're doing this, and you will say, okay, well, we got X, Y, Z. Brilliant. Okay, great. We can see that you're doing it. We can see that anyone on the receiving end of your services is being treated correctly in that particular instance. But then there'll be a conversation about what can we do next? How can we make that better? What can be, we might know another company in the same discipline who are doing things better, differently, I don't know, worse, and we can use that advice to say, right, okay, there's a model. Confidentiality obviously applies, but there is a model, and it works, and you can make money out of it because people are doing it, and we can advance the companies that maybe aren't in a way by giving them guidance of what the industry's doing.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's about remember, focus on behaviour, skills and competencies and experience. SKE of SCEB are demonstrable. There are plenty of things out there that you can use to do that. What we're saying is there's nothing that demonstrates your behaviour in the way that we can, and we think that's a really important thing. The B of SCEB is what we think the other organisations, going right back to the question, are missing out on.
So I think behaviour in competency is a relatively new thing, I think, and I don't want to put my finger in it, but I'm pretty sure that it started when Jill Kernick started to talk about. There was a catastrophe book that was written, and we'll put a link into it, that started to talk about competency is one thing, behaviours is another, and actually being a competent person has always been education, training and experience. Yeah. But actually education, training, experience, now it's behaviour. Yeah. So obviously, in light of what's going on currently with the phase 2 report being released, behaviour is coming up again. And I think that behavioural element is going to start to be pulled into a number of professional institutions in particular. And I think with that behavioural context, I think a lot of professional organisations, particularly the ones that you've talked about, the ASFP being our professional body, are definitely starting to talk about that and behaviour and behaving appropriately. Fundamentally, do you think that the industry, because obviously you're talking about the way organisations in any context think about fire safety, rather than people in fire think about fire. So obviously there are legal requirements and legal duties that organisations have to deliver on. Yeah, of course. Culturally, you either want to deliver them, or culturally you begrudgingly deliver them, but by law you're meant to deliver them. I wonder whether at some point in time, does the need for fire aware disappear, or does the need for fire aware get more intense because there is going to be a greater demand for behavioural
Yeah.
proof of behavioural.
Yeah. I think the answer to that is, you'd expect me to say this, the latter, because, as I said before, we're not just aiming at those companies that may be within those organisations.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ASFP might put a massive drive on behaviour. That's not going to stop a hotelier from underfunding their fire safety.
No,
That's not going to stop a school from employing the right kind of fire door installer for doing some refurbs on some fire doors. And this is, I think, why we've really caught onto the thing that we need to deal with. It needs to be expanded out of not just being the SFP. The SFP, absolutely brilliant. Behavioural stuff within the way that they deal with their members, of course, but it doesn't jump out of passive fire, and that's what we're
No, absolutely. And you would expect, I mean, to use that professional institution, much like David talked about the IFSM or the IFE, is that clients will go to those organisations to identify if they're not competent to do it themselves, to identify a competent person who's been through a rigorous and robust process to be able to demonstrate that they are competent to do the work that they want to employ them to do. And I remember BAFE SP 205, for example, we went through that process at Frankham's initially. That was more about us being able to signpost the fact that we were competent and capable and had the processes in place to deliver it. But we expected our clients to come to that BAFE accreditation or whatever, and by virtue of the way the ASFP, the IFSM, the IFE and others educate the general public by virtue of spending our membership money on advertising, you want your professional institution to sell the wares of the professional institution. And I think, I mean, the query I've got really is, I mean, how big is this? Because obviously if you're in a position where you join and you're required to use members, and obviously over time that will increase naturally because this is a new thing, right? What's the growth look like? How many people are getting in? Who are your core members? And,
so when we started, I mean, take the premise that we're looking at clients and we're looking at supply chain. I was very clear that you couldn't say to a client, right, look, go and stand in that field, and I'm going to surround you with competent people. Well, I'm going to go and step what? No, so we had to form a nucleus, and we've done that now. So we've got up to just over 200 UK-based companies. We've actually got 3 companies in the States that have not bought into it because it's not set up to work in the States, but they support us enough to, as far as I'm concerned, be almost honorary members because they believe in what we're doing. Quite a bit of European interest, to be honest, but I keep saying, let me try and get involved in the UK side of things first.
Before we getting to Manchester and back.
Yeah, exactly, before we swim across the Channel or the Atlantic. So we form the nucleus, and the nucleus that we have is multidisciplinary, highly credible businesses. We've got some globals, we've got some one man in a van because it applies to all, and they're there, and it's a very, very credible community now when you look at the people that are in that organisation. So I think we've got to that stage now, and this is in 2 years. We launched for December 2021. We launched. I remember it clearly, sitting at the kitchen table, and I'm not heavily into websites. I've never really produced a website, and we made the mistake at the very start of going, Dave down the road can do websites, or bloke in the pub. Yeah, they can, but not the website that we needed for this. And me and Lou, my wife, we were very sure that this had to be, super credible because we're pushing a new thing into a new space, and it needed no reason for people to go, don't like that. Yeah. So it had to be a really good website, and I truly believe that we've done that. We've created it. And I can't remember where I was going at now. Oh yeah. So then we launched. And the reason I'm saying that is because I was screaming at the web designers, "We've got to go! I want to launch! Testing, months of testing, and it was, quite frankly, doing my head in because I couldn't get to where I wanted to be. And in the end, we got to December 2021, and I'd been warming up on LinkedIn. We live on LinkedIn predominantly. That's our social platform, and I'd been warming it up, and launched, and nothing happened. I thought, okay, great. So we're sitting there, and then, kid you not, within a few hours, membership came in from a company that I'd never even spoken to, not solicited. Wow. Okay, that's brilliant. And it just started to happen. It was a trickle, not a flood, don't get me wrong. But just that confirmation of actually people believe in this, people actually think it's something they want to do. They understand the process enough to part with a fee to do it. And they've done it. And that's amazing, because if one does it, then maybe it's not just me thinking about it. Maybe it actually is a thing. Because up to that point, I wasn't sure what was going to happen. Yeah. And since then, it's been growing incrementally. Every month we've been getting new members. We've got some members who are just entering into their, be into their 3rd year in December of membership. And feedback from the membership base is great. It's grown since we launched. I mean, the compliance section at the start wasn't as robust as it is now.
Yeah.
We've invested heavily in the compliance side of it and the functionality of the site, and that really works well now. We've got member engagement. We've got members trading with members. We've got committees where we go and meet with our members, different parts of the country, and we talk about, we bring clients to those meetings as well, which is really important, because when a client hears the reason why their supplier is in our organisation, it's a great story. And it also, when they find out that great story USP can transmit to them, well, I can be part of this because I'm using Falcon Timber.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that's a great USP for us. How do we get involved?
Yeah.
And that's going back to, again, the point I was making before about how it's different from anything that's out there.
You said earlier about it's never a no. Does that mean you never rejected somebody to wear the Fire Aware badge?
We have people who've been in the pending tray for a long time. So people that have not come back to us and gone, like, we've done this. So they're not members. They're not.
So
they're in
these would be companies
who've paid a fee, by the way.
Paid a fee.
Paid a fee.
They're
not.
They're allowed to put your badge on there. They're not allowed to.
No, they're not.
Are they the ones listed as members on your website?
No. None of those companies. Those companies are all back of house, waiting for us to get to the point where we say, okay,
so they're competent to do what they've done, but they've just not demonstrated to you they have the moral.
Or I guess they're not competent.
No,
and
exactly.
They do have the moral.
No, 100%. They're not competent. They're not. Their qualifications. It might go back to that I said to you before.
So they paid you.
Yeah, they've paid us a
and
fee.
they're not allowed to use the badge or anything like that.
Not at all until they. But with most of them, I won't say all, because some of them are dead in the water. Quite. You don't hear anything from them, even after continually chasing them. You look, guys, you paid us a fee. What are we doing? You're getting nothing back.
What is it you're asking them to do that they don't want? That's.
It might be that they haven't provided us with an insurance schedule. They might have sent us a certificate. Well, we don't want to see that because it's just a number.
Yeah.
We want to see what the backing is. We want to see what's behind that. It might be client references. They've given us no client references, or equally, we've had nothing back from the client references that we've chased.
Yeah.
And chasing them to chase, look, we've asked nothing. What's going on?
So you could be a fire risk assessor that's not demonstrating competency.
Yeah.
They paid their fee.
Yeah.
You're not letting them in until they can demonstrate it,
100%.
or they're not insured to do the work they're doing,
Exactly.
or they're not demonstrating the right behaviours, but they are.
So they would have to pay that fee up front.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what normally happens is it'll come to the end of the year, and they won't renew, because then there'll be because that is a 12-month membership.
Yeah.
So at the end of that 12-month membership, if they've not done anything, it'll fall away.
But presumably they would have need to be aware when they paid that fee what they're going to have to provide you.
Yeah, it's all set on the website, the initial compliance, and you can see the
Seems
charts.
like quite a short-sighted company that would pay a significant fee to any organisation
and not do anything about it.
Subsequently, no, in the knowledge that they don't have the paperwork to send you.
I will say though, the IFE demands that you pay your fee up front to become a member, and if you don't get your membership, you don't get your feedback.
We've still got to put time into.
I'm not criticising the paying up front. What I'm curious about, I guess, is why would an organisation do that?
Yeah, how far aware are they, Dave?
Well,
how financially aware are they?
You can imagine, again, starting something new in a new space. We've suffered a lot of criticism, which has fairly well died away now, to be fair. We've silenced a lot of criticism.
What sort of criticism have you been getting?
Badge chasing. You're just offering badge chasers an opportunity. Well, that's what we're talking about, effectively.
Yeah.
Someone that's applied thinking, this is going to be easy.
What would your answer to that be? What?
At the start, it was, no, we're not. But it is now very, very obvious that we're not, because we can easily demonstrate the compliance system that you have to go through to get to it. I will admit, when we started, I remember running into the back end of year 2, it was difficult to explain to skeptics, especially given the timing of what we were doing.
Yeah, I agree.
It needs time to develop, but it's done that now. We've got our nucleus, we've got our community, and no one can argue with that. You can see them on the website. By the way, just a step back as well, all the charters are available on the public side of the site.
Yeah.
So anyone who wants to join,
can see what
there's no mystery.
No.
There's no mystery. This is what we're going to ask you to comply with.
I read them last night.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to choose to use them or not, it's up to you. And you can choose whichever one you want. But if I was a passive fire installer, I wouldn't choose the hotelier charter. But that's up to you.
Yeah, no, of course. I think the most important part of any organisation that's seeking to do what you're seeking to do must categorically be able to demonstrate that their members are competent. Yeah. I think that's important. I think they need to demonstrate that they're appropriately insured. I think you then attach to that whatever novel ethic that you're applying to it, whether it's cultural behaviour or behaviour, whatever it might be. And I think that if you're in the space of doing that, that's good news. And I think I talk about the Fire Protection Association as a good example of that. And we've got Dr. Gavin Dunn's going to come on the sofa soon. Part of the Fire Protection Association is that you can join the Fire Protection Association as a member. But in order to be a member of the Fire Protection Association, you just need to pay a fee. You don't need to do anything to become a member of the FPA, because being a member of the FPA gets you stuff like discounts on training, gives you access to their magazines and all that sort of stuff. So being a member of the FPA is fundamentally joining to get information out of the FPA and discounts and training. That's what that is. But it doesn't prevent you from putting it on the bottom of your email. It doesn't put it on the back of your van or whatever.
Which could go back to the point you made about.
But yeah, absolutely. So I think with that, and there's nothing wrong with that, by the way, because if you're offering something in exchange for a membership, it makes perfect sense. So I think the element where you are starting to talk about competency, insurance, ethics, and behaviours, I think that's where you start to close the circle on, are you a badge chaser or not, right? Because if you've got the FireAware logo on the back, I think as someone in the industry for 20 years, I don't know what that means. And Dave, you probably didn't know what it means until we've had this chat.
No,
and actually it starts to make sense as to what it means.
Thank you.
Well, it makes sense. It does make perfect sense. I suppose the question I have around the ethics element is that ethics and behaviours in the context of FireAware is about how do I behave as a hotelier, as a contractor, in terms of fire safety.
Yeah.
And obviously ethics as a business goes a lot deeper than that. And I wonder, does any part of FireAware's ethics element talk about things like social value, having a modern slavery policy, those sorts of ethics beyond doing the right thing for the right reasons around the context of fire safety? Does it also include business ethics?
No, to be honest, it's a good question, but no, and I'm perfectly honest, it doesn't. I think, again, I keep talking about the timescale, and this has been a journey to get it to where it's going to get to, and whether that is the next evolution of FireAware, whether that we take that wider ethical, view. It's not just about the specifics of your fire safety; it's about the specifics of your business. But yeah, answer your question, no. But right now, I think we've got enough work to deal with what we're trying to create. We're trying to answer Dame Judith's call. We're trying to improve the culture of the fire safety sector. And we think we've got a really, really tangible way of doing that. But it's going to take time. Yeah. I'm sitting here 2 years in. I'm sitting here, actually, I'm not. I'm sitting here, 6 years in, personally. Yeah. With a lot of, it's all personal investment. This is not funded. This is just, I wanted to do something. Yeah. Dame Judith's, I've often asked if we could possibly meet, but not had the opportunity to yet. But this is one man's answer to that call. Yeah. This is one man sitting there going, I want to do something about this, and I've got an idea, and Lou, Lou would back me up on this because a lot of the conversations were late at night with her. It's one of them things where you could fall asleep tonight, and it'd be 10 years later. Yeah, of course. And life got in the way, and you never did it. Yeah. And I just said, no, it's too important, and we just stopped everything. And I spent a year creating it. I spent 2 years trying to promote it. I've still got a day job where I'm going and doing other stuff, but this thing's running in the background. The purpose of FireAware revenue, by the way, is beneficial. We want to use the revenue that we create from the membership. Our idea is to subsidise training. So we have FireAware educators. So training companies that train in fire safety can join us. Doesn't matter what they do. You could be training fire engineers or fire marshals. But we want to utilise a scheme. We've got the idea. We've not done it yet. Where we provide a subsidy to our FireAware educators, where they can reduce their per head training costs, and we'll subsidise it. Yeah. Well, no, to anybody.
Yeah. Okay.
But the
so you're giving something back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But the requirement for our educators to do that is you have to, in your course, doesn't matter what you are talking about, you have to give a piece on how important it is to be responsible. Yes. That's because there's no point. I firmly believe there's no point training somebody, letting them loose in the field, and then them realising that, oh, hang on a second, there's a responsibility. Because no one's told me about it. I know how to do my job perfectly, but no one's talked about how I need to behave. Yeah. It's too late. get that education piece in early. Students, anyone coming through the educational system into fire safety.
Up.
Exactly, and it brings that cultural change, because you've now got people coming into the industry who are thinking about that mindset. Who are thinking about it. It's about engaging that thought process that people go, hang on a second, I can't do this. We've got a really good video. I put it on LinkedIn every time we get another 1,000 followers. It's a very short video. It's 1 minute 43 long. It's called Don't Have a Bad Day. And the idea of it is, and it's being used by some of the tier ones as part of their induction process. Tier ones who are not FireAware members, by the way, but still, it helps. And it's a video that encourages operatives who are going out onto a site on a building that maybe might be 2 years from completion, and maybe they're not thinking about how important it is for me to do this job properly now, especially if it's passive, unaccredited. Let's take a bricklayer, for example, putting a fire stop in a cavity wall. What's this? Yeah. And this is what the video does. The guy goes, "What's this?" And his mate goes, "Doesn't matter, get on with it. We've got to make some money." And then it flashes. But then what the video does is it flashes forward in time to a fire, a tower fire, like Grenfell. It's not Grenfell, can't be, but it's like Grenfell, and it's the cause and effect immediately. Yeah. And they're watching that in the induction, and then they go out on site and they go, "Oh,
probably don't want to touch that then."
Yeah, and they go and ask a question, and if just doing that, if that one question stops something going wrong, then that's money and time well invested.
So talking about, this is obviously effectively a membership group.
Yep.
There is another membership group, a really important membership group, isn't there, Dave? That you don't need to demonstrate competence.
Backdraftmovie.com.
Backdraftmovie.com, which is the UK chapter of the Backdraft Movie Appreciation Society.
Wow. I did not notice. This is news.
If you join, you also become an automatic member of the Paul McCaffrey Appreciation Society, and that entitles you, and this might be, I'll let you steal this for FireAware if you want. You get a free photograph of Kurt Russell emailed, no context, to your inbox every month.
As long as Dave remembers to send it.
As long as I remember.
Is it the same photograph?
No.
Oh,
well, it might be.
So
sometimes.
Have you thought of that?
I don't promise.
Yeah, we don't know yet, but we'll see. But this website's been going a long time. He's not got as many members as you have. It's free to join his, and you don't need to be.
You're underestimating how many members I've got.
Well, I still want to know. I want to see how many.
There's
members
a counter on the website, I think.
Yeah.
Imagine the snooker fans that are going to join now.
Exactly. Yeah, on the way to the Crucible.
Honestly, they'll be piling in.
Oh, we're going down that line now.
Yeah, we're always going to go back to that line.
Yeah, Russell he'll be thankful.
Absolutely.
Gavin, I'll assume that you're going to put in your application. You can find it on backdraftmovie.com.
I better be careful what I Google, but yeah, I'll try.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And you'll get your free photograph of Kurt Russell each month.
Yeah.
I can't wait. My life has changed.
I think we're going to have to draw it to a close.
Yes, thank you very much for joining us. So I think it's important to note that we're an independent and neutral podcast, and anybody who wants to get involved can message us on LinkedIn and follow our page or website. We'd love to hear from you. And if you'd like to appear on the show in the future, comment on anything that we've said in the past, drop us a message and we'll bring you down to the studio to discuss. Gavin, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, guys. That's been
Gavin.
Absolute pleasure.
Thank you, Dave. See you soon.
See you next week.